Welcome to Mission Ignition, a new leadership development podcast from Catalyzer and Catalyzer Media, organized to introduce you to our team and approach to igniting leadership growth in your organization. I'm Steve Ingalls, President and CEO at Catalyzer, and we're excited to share another episode with you. Sheriff Smith, you and I were talking about some other incidents that you dealt with when you were still the sheriff, and it's, again, not at this level of criticality, loss of life, etc., but one of the things that you were chatting with me about was your service as sheriff involved a number of wildland fires that were in your area that taught you a tad about paying attention to the thing rather than getting distracted. I can imagine as you're paying attention to fighting this fire, which is, for people that aren't listening from Colorado, may not realize that that's a statutory responsibility of the office of the sheriff. For the most part, to fight wildland fires. How do you stay focused on that, or what did you do in those moments to stay focused on that versus what I can only imagine is constant chirping in your ear from citizens and other civilians and officials about, hey, tell me what's going on?
No, yeah, Steve, I think it's one of those, first you have to remain dynamic as things unfold. And as you mentioned, the odd thing is, when does a peace officer end up involved in massive wildfires? And we also had some flooding. We had just had a lot of natural disasters. And I can tell you, when something unfolds quickly, you can become overwhelmed. And I think there's a few different things that you have to look at. One is quickly realizing you can't handle everything yourself. You have to start delegating. You have to figure out what's important. I go back to that, for everybody who remembers the Below 100 campaign and that notion of thinking of what's important now, the acronym WIN, that we go in, we think some piece is important, but as the world around us changes, and that was for me coming in as a sheriff, I was prepared for the usual things that sheriffs deal with. I hadn't thought that wildfires were going to define my terms in office, but when we got into some of those dynamic situations, you had to focus on what were the life safety issues that are there. And I certainly felt that our first massive wildfire was in 2012. And there were just one thing after it. You thought you didn't even solve a problem. You just kept getting things thrown at you. And I did discover rather quickly in 2012 that you had to sort through what the important parts were, because, and I can only imagine what it is in that type of situation in the elementary school when there's just so many things coming at you. You have to decide which things aren't important to deal with at any point in time. And you have to sort through and throw those to the side and not get distracted. One of the things that we got into in the long term is you can't fight yesterday's fight today. And I think, in a much faster realm, when you're dealing with an active shooter, what you thought you were dealing with, 10 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago, 30 seconds ago, things quickly become not that important, and you have to get back to the important piece. And I think as I looked and read the after actions here, there was so much information, so many decisions to be made, that it was easy to lose track of what's the important one right now, which was that life safety and getting to stopping the shooter. All the other things become even as important as loud and the screaming and the noise and the chaos. That's still the one you have to focus on. And I think that's a lesson here, is it's easy to see how we can become overwhelmed when too much comes at us and we have the potential to lose track on the most important, try to solve other problems that can be solved later.
Thanks again for joining us on Mission Ignition. We hope you'll tune in again soon and make this one of your go-to sources for plain, practical thinking around the contemporary issues you, your leaders, and your organization are dealing with. In the meantime, please check us out on our website at www.teamcatalyzer.com and on LinkedIn. Remember, regardless of what business you're in, we're all primarily in the people business. Now time to get out there and ignite some great.